Hello and welcome. Look, as they say, hey, hey.
Hey!
It is day 5 and it's all about getting into a routine. We have a special guest today, and she is our main special guest for the day. This message will be very short and straight to the point, but I did not want to break the routine, especially with today's topic being get into a routine. So if you've been tuning in, we are on day 5. We've had some incredible guests for day 4. We've had incredible guests days 1 through 4. And today I really just wanted to encourage you all about a routine. And this is I want to read Colossians 3:23 to you. It says, whatever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not to men. So this is so important because as you think about, you can say hey. Let's see if she'll relax. When you think about it, it's so easy to think that it's just about us. So it's easy to try to, just check out and say, oh, I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to really, follow through on what it is that you're called to because you think it's just for men. But truly, when God has called you to something, it's so important that we just continue to show up. It's so important that even when it doesn't feel like it, and there's a definition that talks about self-discipline, and it says doing what you know to do, even when you do not feel like it. Doing what you know to do, even when you don't feel like it. Today has been one of those days where I did not feel like it. If ever there was a I don't feel like it day, today is that. And when I think about just today's topic of getting into a routine is so important because it allows you to start operating outside of your feelings. And I really believe, and this would be, I guess, our second verse for today, that obedience is better than sacrifice. And so when we think about the routine, it's not just about saying what you have to do, what you don't have to do. It's truly coming from a place of obedience. And when God has revealed something to you or God has shown you this is the capacity I need to show up, sometimes you're going to have to show up uncomfortable. Sometimes you're going to have to show up even when you don't feel like it. Sometimes you're going to have to show up. She said, yes, even when you don't feel like it. But when we remember that we're showing up beyond just for ourselves, we're showing up for God, we're showing up for our calling, we're showing up for who He's called us to be. And so when that happens, that's how we get past our feelings. And I'm telling you, for many of you, God has shown you for even this year, there are things that He's called you to do. There are things that He's revealed to you. There are things that He's showing you that you're going to accomplish. And a lot of times we want to get excited about the vision. We've written the goals, we have the checklist. But when you are called to show up when you don't feel like it, that is a routine to me. That is when I'll give you another example. I grew up in a military background. And so I've heard so many different analogies with the military. And one thing in particular is making their beds. Like that was a huge thing. I remember even my father talking about that from boot camp. And you would think just making your bed, what's the big deal? What difference does it make? But when something becomes such a routine, creating order, when you're in the middle, whether you're at boot camp or the middle of a war, these things that have become so routine will not distract you when it's time to really get things done. When life comes at you, and if you've experienced this, for those of you, if you can relate, definitely share your stories. But I can think of times where it was traumatic. I can think of times of great loss. I can even think of times where winds were coming in, and it was those things that had become routine that you get to a point where you do them without even thinking about it. And the thing about it is, it also works both good and not so good. There are routines that we have that aren't the best of the best, right? There are routines, there are things that we do routinely and we don't even think twice about it. And it's become a habit. And so you could be having a bad day and you're still grabbing for that same breakfast that you typically grab for. Or you can be driving down the street and you make that turn without even thinking about it because it's become so routine. So my encouragement to you is to get into a routine that's lining up with God's vision for your life. Get into the routine that puts you in alignment with where He's calling you to be. And what you did yesterday, what happened to you this morning, what happened 15 minutes ago, The blessing is that you have breath in your body, and right now is an opportunity to start fresh. And there are so many researches that have been done, whether it takes 21 days or 60 days or 91 days to form a new habit and all of these things. But I'm telling you, whether it's going to take you 21 days or 100 days, the time to start is now. Don't beat yourself up over, how it didn't work before, or how you may have, maybe some of you started at the start of the year and you thought you were going to do something. And now here we are 2 weeks in and you've already started to give up. Get into a routine. And the thing that's encouraging too is that sometimes when we just rely on our actions and strategies, what we were reminded for yesterday, even when we talked about making a plan, is that you do not have to rely on your own strength. There have been so many times where I could not rely on strength. I had no strength, no strength left. And there's a verse that says, God's strength is made perfect in our weakness. So when you are feeling weak, those are the perfect times. If you feel like I can't get this routine together, I can't do this. That's a perfect time to pray about it. That's a perfect time to surrender. That's a perfect time to give it to God to help you, because he will make a way of escape when you're tempted to fall off of track. He will bring the right people. There are times where I've prayed for God, just send somebody for me to talk to. Like, this is tough. I need some encouragement. And it would be down to the clerk at the checkout counter that has something to say that's like right on time for what is needed in that moment. So if you have been struggling with this, having a routine and showing up consistently, or even just walking in where God is calling you to walk through, this message is for you. And my encouragement to you is that you do not have to rely on your own strength. You do not have to rely on your own ability. You don't even have to rely on your own ideas of what that looks like. Ask God. And I feel like it was just put so beautifully yesterday. Ruth Ann and Sony both talked about this, just giving God even the smallest of things down to your routine. What time should I be getting up in the morning? How should my day flow? What should be the top priority throughout my day? And what you'll find is that those things that become routine, you're able to perform them even when the circumstances say sit down, even when everything says to give up, even when you feel like quitting, even when doors are closing, even when doors are opening, even when you just don't feel like it. You're going to be able to fulfill and walk in what God is calling you to. And that is why your obedience is better than sacrifice. Because when God is pushing you in a direction and showing you where it is that you need to go, you never know what's on the other side of that obedience. You never know. You might think it's something small, but when you remember in our verse today is that you're not working for men. This is for God. So it might seem like it's just something small if you show up, or it's something that doesn't even matter. Who cares if I do it? Who cares if I don't? I'm going to go back. I said I was going to fast, but never mind. I'm hungry. Who cares? No one's paying attention. I said I was going to take on this job, but they get on my nerves. I quit. When we're making these commitments and when we remember that your steps are ordered and it's not a coincidence that you're where you're supposed to be and that you're showing up how you're supposed to show up, so much can be tied to your obedience and you're fulfilling that. And so that's just my, I said today will be a little shorter, but get into a routine. Get into a routine. And I can give you just even some smaller tips when you think about a routine is writing it down. You have to make that commitment. So if you haven't written it down, or if you're trying to figure out where to start, at minimum, get into your prayer closet, start praying about it, and ask God even if it's one little thing that you need to add to your routine. What's that one thing that I need to start doing each day? And what you'll find is pretty soon that one thing will come so seamlessly, you won't even think about it. It will be easy to start adding on to that, because most of you, no one has to tell you to get dressed in the morning. There was a time where you were learning to get dressed, or you were learning to put on your shoes or brush your teeth or do things that are so routine now you do it without even thinking about it. And I believe that when God is calling you to another level, calling you to that next open door, or whatever he's put on your heart for this season, there is something attached to your routine. There's something that you can be doing on a consistent basis that's going to help you show up even stronger and more consistently in that area. So that is it for today. If you have not registered, go to amplifyher.net/1010 event so you can get some of the behind the scenes updates. Big thank you to those of you who have been commenting, you've been sharing, you've been interacting. It is much appreciated. So if you're watching live right now, or even if you catch the replay, make sure that you drop a comment, share if you have a takeaway, a testimony, a friend that needs to watch this. Make sure that you all just continue to stay connected. Tomorrow is day 6. We still have an amazing lineup of guest interviews coming up, and we're just getting started. This is halftime right now, a little bit at day 5, but we still have 5 more days left of the 1010 event. So just stay connected. And if you missed it, again, days 1 through 4 are still available. So make sure that you go back and catch up, take some notes. If something resonates with you, this isn't just an event where it's just free information, to listen, just to say you listened, or watch someone just to, tell them good job. Some of you are going to get life-changing nuggets just by just your obedience and listening. If God is, leading you to listen to this. And I can give you so many examples, but I still remember there was this one message that I was listening to, and there was just one small tip. This person was mentioning how they had collaborated on an opportunity, and it was a little more elaborate than that. But I remember that single-handedly, like me getting that one little tip, it 10x'd everything I was doing in that season. That was like over 8 years ago. And it just changed the trajectory of what I was doing just by implementing like that one tidbit. So don't take it lightly when you're able to get plugged into encouragement like this. And I don't take it lightly that you're plugged in either. All right, well, that is day 5, and I will see you all tomorrow for day 6 of the 1010 event.